Incredible. How about the Ram team? Denise and Will? Let's give them another hand. I mean, whoa. I mean, I was almost out of breath just listening to all that. But I'm really trying to work out more. This morning I got up, I did a 5-mile brisk walk. And that was actually just from my hotel room to here. Not too bad. No, it was about, and then how about the women of Beamer? Let's give them a hand. Wow. Incredible. Now, you might be here today and say, well, you know what? I've got all these challenges. I might not be able to make this work, and I've had these things in my background. I guarantee you that no matter what any one of you here has gone through, no matter what obstacles you face. I know last night there are people here in this room that slept in a suite. And I know there are people here in this room that slept in their car. But no matter what you've gone through, I guarantee you that those women up here, many of them have gone through more than any of us will ever go through. Some tremendous challenges. So today's a brand new day. No matter what you've gone through, this is a brand new day. Beamer's 20 years old, and it's just the beginning of the next 20 years. And are we here at the right place? Yeah. Incredible. What I'm going to talk about a little bit today is what I call, there we are, how to break through the barriers to your success. See, when I found Beamer just over 3 years ago, I went to my first academy in Spokane, Washington. There were about 40 people there. And I was blessed by the fact that our instructor was Bettina Torres. Let's give her one more hand. Wow. She literally changed our lives in a big, big way. But at that meeting, there were 2 people sitting next to me. Both same background, both had the same potential. One of them, over the last 3 years, has become a 7-figure earner with Beamer. One of them has become a 0-figure earner. Now, what's the difference? See, we all get faced with a lot of obstacles. But all the time that we're getting faced with those obstacles, sometimes we don't respond in the way we should. So I think there are 3 main obstacles that we face in the process of building our Beamer business. Obstacle number 1, I would call your baggage. Whoops, let me back up. There we go. I would call your baggage. Stuff that you've gone through in the past. And unfortunately, sometimes we don't let go of that. We hang on to it. And we're trying to do our Beamer business and go forward, but yet we're still holding on to this baggage that's pulling us back. Whether it's a past business failure, you know, whether it's a past relationship failure, whatever it is, you've got to decide that today is a brand new day, and you're going to make a change, and you're going to dump that baggage. Just leave it behind and focus on the future with Beamer rather than focusing on your past. You've got to do that to be successful. The second barrier I think I would call, whoops, let me go, I hit the wrong button. See, you don't have to be technical to be able to do this. The second barrier would be wrong people. And most of you know exactly what I mean by that. Wrong people. We all have people in our lives that rather than encourage us, rather than help us to reach our goals, tend to tear us down, tend to stop us from reaching our goals. And we need to be sure that as we build our teams, build those teams with people that are going to help you achieve your goals, with people that you can work and help them achieve their goals. That's the only way you're going to be successful with Beamer. And sometimes it's people that you really love, but they just don't change. And sometimes you can still love them, but you got to move on in terms of where you spend your time. So make sure you spend your time with the right people. The third thing, and probably the most important, I think, is the wrong attitude. That's a major barrier for many of us. You know, we go through life and we have all kinds of exciting things, and then we have all kinds of people that throw, you know, dust on us and mud on us. And as a result, over the years, we kind of get a bad attitude, a negative attitude. We start to think, well, you know, look at Barb Gossage. You know, she's an OD+, but man, look at, she had experience, all this stuff. She had George, all this. But you know what? You can't do that. You got to realize you've got to have an attitude that no matter what, you've got an opportunity to be successful. You know, I used to believe that you could get anything you wanted to in life. But what I found out, it's not the want to that makes the difference. See, most of us want to have a good relationship with our spouse. Most of us want to have a nice home. Most of us want to be organizational director plus. But sometimes in our hearts, We don't think we're ever going to do that. See, it's not the want to that makes the difference. It's the expect to that makes the big difference. You've got to expect to win. You know, I'll tell you an interesting story. One of my favorite stories of sports, we'll call it, is Carl Wallenda. I had the privilege of meeting his great-great-grandson. And Carl Wallenda was the world's greatest tightrope walker. He walked the tightrope across from the tallest building to the next tallest building, across the biggest canyons in the world. He was knighted by the Queen. I mean, this guy was world famous. Until one day, he had a tragic fall to his death. Now, when the reporters interviewed his widow, they asked her what happened. Why did he fall? And she said, you know, it was strange, but for about 3 months, she said, before his fall, all he could talk about was falling. See, he was focusing on failing, not focusing on winning. And I thought, isn't that really what we do? Rather than expecting to win, a lot of times we expect that we're not going to make it. Hey, I'm going to put somebody on a beamer, but you know, they may not notice anything. I'm going to invite somebody to a meeting, but they probably won't come. Why don't we change that paradigm and start to expect to win rather than expecting to lose? That makes all the difference in the world. One of the things that I learned from my dad was a chiropractor in Northern California. And on his desk, he had a little card, and it simply said, keep smiling. Now, the reason he had that card is he had gone through lots of challenges. When he was young, he had surgery on his lungs, and they didn't really have anesthesia and the stuff they needed back then. When he married my mom had a background where when she grew up, she had rheumatic fever, damaged her heart. She had 2 open heart surgeries, the first one when I was 7 years old, the second one when I was in 7th grade. And both were brutal. Back then, this was a long time ago, and back then they didn't have all the technology that they do today. Her second open heart surgery was at Stanford University, Dr. Norman Shumway. And they did a heart valve replacement. It was literally like a steel cage with a ping pong ball. And it was a brutal operation. She was in intensive care for 6 months. Different today. I had a friend that had open heart surgery. He was home 3 days later, feeling good. But she was in intensive care for 6 months. She didn't have insurance because they wouldn't insure her. And the bill was astronomical. It took my dad 3 years to pay that off. But he had that card on his desk that said, keep smiling. Remember my mom told me when I was little, she said, David, everybody's going to go through challenges in life. And you can go through them one of 2 ways. You can go through kicking and screaming and be miserable, or you can smile. You're going to go through it either way. Much easier if you're smiling. So keep smiling. That makes a big difference in whatever you do. I think it's important also to invest in your attitude. So many of us spend more money on our car or our garden than we've ever even thought about spending on our brain and our attitude. And yet that's so critically important. And today there are so many things that you could do. I mean, back when I was getting involved and starting speaking and everything, I bought tons and tons of books. I have tons of books under my bed and my library everywhere. But you know what? Today it's all free. It's on the internet. You can join Amazon Prime, and on Amazon Prime you can go to what is it called? Kindle books. There's all kinds of free books. You have a problem with procrastinating. You got free stuff on how to stop procrastinating. I got one of the books. I never had time to watch it yet, I guess. But, I got one of those programs on how to improve your memory. I forgot where I put it. But the key is all that stuff is free. Go to YouTube. Invest 20 minutes every day looking at something on YouTube. Look at Jim Rohn, Og Mandino. Tremendous. Anybody like Jim Rohn? I mean, that is life-changing stuff. I would promise you this. If you would invest 20 minutes every day, 20 minutes listening to positive stuff to help turn your brain around the right way, in 30 days, it will change your life and change your business, change your relationships, absolutely everything. So take time to invest in your attitude. And I think besides those barriers, I found in the process of looking at our business, 3 secrets of success. And I look at the people that I brought on board in Beamer. Some of them have had massive success, and some of them have not. And there's certain common denominators amongst the ones that have had massive success. What are they? Well, the first one, I believe, is burning desire. You've got to want it so bad that you're willing to pay any price. See, I don't know how many of us here are going to hit organizational director, but I do know one thing. All of us are going to encounter obstacles. That's just part of the course. And your degree of success is directly related to how you get through those obstacles. Well, guess what? The more burning desire you have, the more you're going to be able to get through those obstacles in a big, big way. I think the way that you fan that burning desire is to start to dream again. See, most of us have really, if we're honest, we've given up on dreaming. You know, when you were little, you were going to be president. You were going to be an Olympic athlete, right? You're going to play for the Dallas Cowboys. And all of a sudden now, as you get older, it's like, well, you know, I'm not sure if I can even make it to group leader. And you start to be negative. Well, if you start to dream again, because guess what? There's nothing in the world that you cannot achieve if you believe it and you go out there and you're focused on doing it. So start to dream again. One of the things I did years ago is I got what I call a little dream file. It was just a manila folder. And anything I saw that I wanted to get from my family, from my kids, from my parents, trip I wanted to send somebody on, something I wanted to do from my church, I would rip it out of a magazine. Back then we had magazines. And I'd put it in the folder. You can do it on your computer today. You know, if you've ever been on an airplane and the magazine in front of you was all ripped up, I was probably there right before you. But start to collect things and start to dream. You know, what kind of house do you really want? Go look at houses. What kind of car do you want to drive? What do you want to do for your church? What do you want to do to help people? How do you want to help your kids? Start to dream again. That makes a big difference. Here's an interesting quote. This is from Mark Twain. He said, I can teach anybody how to get what they want out of life. The problem is that I can't find anybody who can tell me what they want. That's a big problem. We've got to know what we want inside before we're going to be able to go out and have the burning desire to accomplish it. And one of the things I think is critically important, and I know some of you here, because you're my friends, have done this, and many of you haven't, and I'd recommend do it today. And that is create your own personal mission statement. That's very, very important. And it's very important also for the clicker to work. And I see it's doing all kinds of things there. Guys, where are we there? There we go, mission statement. Let's give them a hand back there, by the way. They're doing a good job. You've got to have a personal mission statement. It might be as simple as, I want to make a difference in the world. I want to help people with their health and their finances by helping them get involved with Beamer. Whatever it is, as simple as it is, write it out. And you can always change it later. Don't wait and say, well, I want to think about it, because you're going to be thinking about it 10 years from now. Take the time to write out a personal mission statement. One of my favorite stories is about a guy that liked to travel in Europe. And he would go around and look at the big, beautiful cathedrals. I mean, think of that. If you've had a chance to travel and see some of those, we couldn't hardly even build them today. And they didn't have computers. They didn't have power tools. It was all done by hand. I mean, it's miraculous. This guy would go around and look at them and take pictures. One day he was in one of these big cathedrals that was in the process of being rebuilt. And he walked in, he walked around, and he saw a gentleman over working on the wall, and he said, can I ask what you're doing? And the gentleman said, yes, I'm actually refinishing the woodwork on the wall so it'll last for hundreds of years. He said, great. He walked around a little more. He saw a guy working on an iron rail. And he said, could I ask what you're doing? And the guy said, yeah, I'm refinishing the iron rail so it doesn't get rusty and it'll last a long time. As he's leaving the cathedral, he's walking out, and he sees an older gentleman on his hands and knees picking up cobblestones and putting them back in the walkway. And he said, could I ask what you're doing? And the guy stands up, and he turns around, and he looks at the cathedral, and he says, I'm building the world's greatest cathedral. See, he had a mission. He had a big vision of what he wanted to do. He had a mission statement. And what's your mission statement? Is it to make a sale? Is it to recruit somebody? Or is it to change healthcare in the world? We've got a big mission with Beamer. And thanks to Peter Gleim and Robert Mull and the team, Nick Hewish, let's give them a hand, by the way. We are extremely proud to be part of that mission. And if you can buy into that mission, I promise you, you'll never turn back. One of my favorite little videos you can find on the internet is on YouTube. Just type in the Dash video. How many have seen that, the Dash video? I recommend take a look at it tonight. Short little video. And it talks about when you see somebody's tombstone, it's got the year they were born, then it's got the year they died. But it says the year they were born and the year they died, that doesn't matter. What matters is the dash in between. What have you done that's made a difference? See, think about that right now. If you were to die tonight and your funeral was next week, what would people stand up and say about you? What would they say? That's extremely important. I think the key is our life is not just about success. It's about significance. What can you do that's going to make a difference in the world? And I tell you what, the people that have been the most successful on my Beamer team, they're the ones that have used the Beamer the most themselves because they know that it works. They're the ones that have used the Beamer on the most other people because they've seen miraculous stories. They're the ones that have been the most academies where they go around the academy and they share the testimonials. Beamer is absolutely life-changing. And I don't know of anything you could do that's going to help people achieve more success with their health and their finances than what happens with Beamer. Let me tell you a little story about our dog Nomad. Some of you have heard this already, but Nomad I bought from my son. My kid's mother passed away from cancer about 10 years ago. And we got my daughter into college, and she's here, by the way, today. Morgan, let's give Morgan a hand. Thanks for being here. We got my daughter into college, and she had a great circle of friends. My son was having a tough time. And so what we did, I got my son a dog. I went out and I found little Nomad. Nomad is about 15 pounds. He's a Maltese and a little Yorkshire Terrier mix. And he's a character. He's our buddy. And he's just a sweetheart. When I lived I just moved back to Texas, by the way. And this summer I was wondering why I moved back to Texas in the middle of the heat, but it's a good place to be. And so Nomad, when we would come home or leave, he would, right by our door where you came in or left, Nomad would get up on the couch and he'd jump up on the back of the couch. So he could be close to you, you could scratch him and he could say hi or goodbye. Well, one day I was on my way to Park Cities, Utah to work with some of the Olympic skiers. They noticed they have incredible results, just like the sports people you saw up here. Beamer is life-changing for everybody, but sports people, it's incredible. And so I was on my way. Nomad jumps up on the couch, and he jumps off, but instead of a happy landing, he caught his foot. And he flipped every which way, and he landed right on his head with a bone-breaking crack like that. And I was sick to my stomach. I can still remember how I felt. My son comes screaming. He's just worried, and Nomad couldn't move. He was paralyzed. He could move his eyes a little bit and his mouth a little bit. We got him to the vet. That was extremely difficult, and the vet loves Nomad. We take him there to be groomed and everything. And the vet takes him in to do x-rays, and we can hear the squealing while she's moving him to do the x-rays. And she walks out to my son and I in the waiting room, and she's crying. And I'm like, that's not good. And she said, David, you know we love Nomad, but he's got a broken neck. He's got one vertebra all the way through. He's got another vertebra that's cracked, that's pressing against the disc. And it's a very difficult operation. You may still have to put him to sleep. She said, I recommend you don't let him suffer. Put him to sleep. I remember I told her, I said, you know, I've got friends I'd put to sleep before my dog. So, and I think all of us do, right? Some of us have several friends like that. But what I did is I brought Nomad home, and I put him on the Beamer. The first day, he couldn't move, moved his eyes and his mouth a little bit. We had to give him water with our fingertips, a little bit of food, and he was scared to death. You could just see that look of fear in his eye. Second day, same thing. Third morning, I went in my son's room, and I scratched Nomad a little bit, and you know what? He looked at me, but he still didn't move. I went in the kitchen, and I turned around. He had managed to crawl into the kitchen behind me. And I was excited. I thought I could take him out, but I couldn't. It just wasn't time. The fourth morning, I opened my bedroom door, and there was Nomad sitting there. And he's looking at me like, let's go outside. I was so excited. I took him out. He couldn't do much, couldn't walk much. But 2 weeks later, it was like Nomad's a different dog. 6 months later, it was like he was 2 years old again. I mean, now, what is that worth? What is that worth? I would spend every dime I have to get a Beamer if the Beamer can help Nomad live and be healthy. And here's a dog the vet said put to sleep. Now, Nomad's a dog. What about people? There are so many people out there that are suffering today. And by the way, Nomad's doing extremely good today. He's driving again. It's all working well. He doesn't have a license yet. They wouldn't do that, but no. I want to talk just a second about awareness. We've got to become aware of the people out there that need Beamer. We're not in the business of selling Beamers. We're in the business of being aware and finding people that need them, finding people that need this business as well. Many of you that know me know that for the last 2 years, I was actually legally blind. I was 20 over 400. And I tell you what, it was tough. I love to read. I couldn't read. I have to hold my cell phone right here. This is one of the first meetings I've done, by the way, because 3 months ago I had eye surgery. A good friend of mine in Tampa, Florida, Larry Parrish. And I tell you what, I'm 2020 and I'm 2015. Yep. Amazing. I can see people in the back row, and I couldn't see anybody. In fact, it was tough because I did so many academies and I couldn't see the slides. I had to go like with Dennis and Stacy DeVore, and Stacy would read the slides to me. And it was very difficult. But you know, the doctor finally, because I was really 20 over 400, the doctor finally got me one of the blind canes. And it really kept me from falling over. I mean, if I went to a curb, I had no depth perception, so I had to use the cane to tell if there was a curb there. But you know what? I really didn't want to use that all the time. So some places, like if I walked across the street or if I was in a hotel and went downstairs, I didn't use the cane. I left it home. One day I was walking to my chiropractor's office, and I'm walking down the sidewalk, only like 2 blocks from my house. And on the edge of the sidewalk is a no parking sign facing that way. But from the side, it's only about 1 inch thick. And I didn't see it. I hit that sign so hard, it literally almost knocked me out. If I hadn't had a golf cap on, it probably would have cut my head open. I still have a V in the golf cap where I hit it so hard. But you know, here's what's amazing. The sign was there. It was there all the time. But I wasn't aware of it. Okay, then I went to a conference, and I was in a hotel, and the meeting was downstairs. And I thought, I'm in the hotel. I'm going to be fine. I left my cane in the hotel room. I walked downstairs. I didn't realize I had to get on an elevator. And again, I had no depth perception. So I misstepped, and I fell about 1/3 of the way down the escalator, rather. 1/3 of the way down the escalator. And these stairs in the escalator are pretty hard. They're made out of metal. Fortunately, I didn't get hurt. But you know what? The escalator was there. The step was there. But I wasn't aware of it. And the same thing is in our business. The people out there today, we've got 350 million people in America. Of those 350 million people in America, guess what? All of them need a beamer. But half of them desperately need the beamer. And they're waiting for us to bring it to them. And if we don't ask them, like Randy Hood does, have you heard about the beamer? They're probably never going to hear about it. We need to make sure that we start to let people know about the beamer and get that awareness out there. And by the way, the most difficult thing for me, and I'm going to close with this last story. Whoops, there we go. The most difficult thing for me with the cane was when I was driving. Had to use that. That was really difficult. But I believe the secret to beamer is what you see right here. That's the heart. So you're going to talk to people that are going to have objections. You're going to talk to people that are going to be kind of hard on you. But you know what? If you've got a heart and you're talking to that person out of love and out of care for them, that you want to make a difference in their life, you're not going to have any objections. If you try to recruit them or sell them a product because you want to make money, they're going to see dollar signs in your eyeballs. But if you're genuinely concerned about that person, you love them and you care about them, you want to make a difference in their life, that changes the whole ballgame. It makes Beamer easy and it makes Beamer fun in a big way. Real quickly, you also have to be single-minded. You got to be focused on what you're doing. Not that you have to be a full-time person at Beamer, but what I mean is the time you spend building Beamer, you've got to be 110% focused on what you're doing. And I'm going to skip this story. I'm going to go right on and say you got to dream big. You got to set goals, but you got to take action on those goals, because if you set goals and you don't move, it doesn't make any difference. Last of all, persistence. You know, you're going to encounter obstacles, and your degree of success is going to be based on how you get through those obstacles. You can't give up. I always say our business is like a bucket of 100 oysters. And that bucket of 100 oysters, let's say there's 97 empty oysters, and there's 3 pearls. The average person gets in Beamer, they open up an oyster, it's empty, and it's like, maybe you bring somebody to a meeting and they don't sign up, empty oyster. Maybe you call somebody, try to get them on a conference call, they don't show up, empty oyster. And the average person, after 3 or 4 empty oysters, says, you know what, this is too difficult. I'm going to give up. And the fact is, there's still 3 pearls in that bucket. But most people give up, and they say, I'm going to do something more stable, like maybe real estate, right? whatever. You got to be persistent because the people are out there. There's no question about it. I'm going to close with this. My favorite story in the world of sports, and I probably told this 1,000 times, is the 1984 Olympics. Mary Lou Retton had a chance to make history. The women's Olympic gymnastics team had never won a gold medal. Her coach, Bella Carolla, had come over from Romania, and Mary Lou Retton was a contender to win the gold medal. She was ready. And Mary Lou Retton, right before the event, her competitor stood up, did the vault, got almost a perfect score. The only way Mary Lou Retton could win would be to get a 10. Almost impossible in Olympic gymnastics. Well, her coach, right before she went up, stood right in front of her, looked at her and said, Mary Lou, never better, the best that you can vault. And when I heard those words, I thought, you know, that's the secret. Mary Lou Retton stood there, she did the vault, she flipped every which way, she landed with her arms perfectly up in the air, and the second the camera hits her face, you know that she knew that she got a perfect 10. She made history. The camera panned around the silent audience, all of a sudden hits the scoreboard, it lights up with the 10. It was incredible. People went hysterical. Why did she win? I think the reason she won is because she had that burning desire. She was single-minded. She was persistent. She never gave up. And this was her never better moment. Never better. See, there it is. There's your never better moment. No, here we go. Okay. Pretend right in the, there we go. Never better. Never better. That's the secret. And you know what? All of us have come from different places. Some of us had a good year last year. Some of us had an awful year last year. But I believe if you're willing to have that desire, to be focused, to be persistent, with that never better attitude, with Beamer, I believe, it will never be better than what we can do right now to change the world. Thank you much.